have a really fun time, I think, today with a couple of groups that are really doing some amazing things. And let me bring up the agenda for those that aren't already plugged into it. I'll zoom in here a little bit. So today we've got Adriana and Stephen, both from Maxwell, the recent winners of the SHRM Better Workplace Challenge Cup, and pretty exciting to go. I think according to Tim Sackett's article, which is in the description here for those that go to the description, you'll see a link here to, and most of us know, if you don't know Tim Sackett, you definitely want to connect with him. And he said there was like, what, over 400 applicants? Does this sound right?
That's right.
And it came down to, look at these happy people. This was, I think, before, was this before or after that you won? I think it might have been before.
Mm-hmm.
It was serendipitous, but
with all the oranges.
Yeah, we still have plenty of oranges. That's how we can tell that.
Oh, right. Yeah, the amount of oranges left, that's good. So did any disappear at night, or they're all still there in the morning when you come in the next day, like second day?
Oh, they stuck around, but we emptied them all out. So I think we went, what, through 500, 600 clementines throughout the SHRM.
Wow, that's a lot of clementines.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Lots of see.
Yeah, we used to, a few years back, we used to have a little game of chance or whatever. We like, if there were some pens or just pretty much any giveaways laying out the night before, we come in the next morning for the next day of the show and see how many are left. And usually it would go from like 20 to like 5. I'm like, where do all these pens go? Who's here at night? Like old pen gremlins or something. Kind of fun, but all right. Well, so with that, I'd like to formally welcome our two guests today. We've got Adriana, the CEO and co-founder of Maxwell. Adriana, I think I said it wrong after practicing, darn, sorry about that. We'll cut that on the editing floor. And then Stephen and Enke, is that how you say?
Yeah, it changes all the time.
Okay. All right. Well, loved it for you to share a little bit about like the competition and certainly what Maxwell's doing, but how'd you get involved, and where did what did it start? Almost probably like 9 months ago, probably, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. I think I'm not sure exactly when did they open the competition, but I think it would have been December, January when they opened the competition for people to enter. So we had heard about the competition before, but honestly, we were really busy, heads down, working on Maxwell, when a friend that is a startup founder in the tech space, so education technology, reached out and said, hey, someone told me that I should apply to this, but this doesn't really fit what we do. However, I know you guys are on the HR tech / fintech side, and you're doing really cool things that create better workplaces. I think you should apply. And so it was like, oh yes, the competition. And so we're like, okay, this is a really cool competition. We should go ahead and become a part of it. So we did that back in January. In terms of how the competition looks, it's a series of steps. I know they have modified over the years. The way that it looked this year is it was formatted into sort of like regional competitions. So all of this part is virtual. After you submit, through the form and explain what is it that you're working on, that's the first criteria. There's a series of people that are judging it on the other side that decide who goes forward. And then in the US, where we're based, then you have a series of virtual competitions in which you submit your pitch and you compete against others. If you advance after that competition, then you make it to another regional competition, and so on, until it is the US competition. And then it culminates with the finalist of the US competing against the finalist of the rest of the world. at SHRM's annual conference.
Yeah, exciting, and to be up on stage with important judges and some semi-famous and obviously very smart because they picked you, right?
Yes, we like to think so. Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, that's exciting. So in terms of the competition, as you were alluding there, Ward, that happened during the annual conference, which is the largest, as you all know, the largest HR conference in the world. This time they'd had more than 20,000 people register for it. It was a panel of HR experts, including the people that you see there on the screen, which are individuals that know HR inside and out, that know HR technology inside and out. And then included the guest judge was Susie Welch this time, who is a professor of business at NYU, Stern School of Business, renowned author in, including books from a business standpoint, and then from a work-life perspective. There's a picture of her there. So yeah, and then for that particular pitch, that pitch was live. And then we had to give the pitch in just a few minutes, just 3 minutes to explain what is it that we do. And then they have an opportunity to ask questions and for me to answer those questions. So yeah, I don't know what else you'd like to know about it.
Well, you pitched us several times to get, from the very top of the funnel down to the final round.
Correct.
What were some of the questions maybe that challenged you a little more than you weren't expecting? Do you remember any that popped up over the past 6 months or whatever?
Anything that we wouldn't have been expecting? I don't know. I can't think of anything that wasn't expected. Like, we have a lot of conversations with employers about how the solution works. And so most of the questions are very typical, type of questions that we receive. But maybe I'll share one with you that that we get asked, and it's one that I'm really proud to share how it makes a difference. So one of the things that differentiates Maxwell from other solutions that are trying to do something similar is how it connects to the remainder of the employee value proposition, and then also how it really serves the needs across really the diversity of needs that a workforce has. So typically the question that we get is, well, who is this used by? Does this really serve the needs of everyone? Something along those lines. And so we get a chance to show them, yes, it does, because we have built Maxwell in such a way that it really covers the needs of those individuals who their most scarce resource is actually time, and they need help removing something off their plate, all the way to the other side of the spectrum, where you have someone that their scarcest resource is actually financial, and they're hoping to get some additional help to better balance life and work and the needs that they have. So I would say that's a question that we get from heads of HR that are trying to provide something personalized, but that is also going to fit the needs of each and every one of their employees.
Which is always different, probably, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think specific to just HR in general, and this is not just for Maxwell, but for anyone who's building the HR tech space, one is like, there's this, and I don't come from HR, but I noticed there's this tension between the HR team members and then the tech side of it as well, just because there's been such an inundation of all these fractional ones. So being able to address that and simplify it. And that dovetails into another question that we got a few times of, there's, especially in HR, there's generally more stakeholders than you might see in other industries. So you have to be helping the HR team members. So how are you supporting them? Someone who's already overworked and underpaid, how are you supporting the CEO or CFO and their kind of financial needs as well? And hopefully those align with what the HR team is trying to do. But then especially in Maxwell's case, We have the quote unquote users, which we call our members, and that's the actual individual employee. And that goes to what Adriana was talking about as well, is how do you support each and every one of those? So that's a question that comes up too, is, okay, how is this helping the HR person? How is this helping the individual team members? But then also, how is this helping the overall umbrella goal that the company is going towards? So being able to address that in tech, and also, you know, not complicate the HR manager's life, but simplify it, is something that's always important to think about.
And who gets to pick what, like, you get each person gets like a debit card, right? Or a credit card that they can use then to
Yeah, maybe it's
acquire
worth
certain
explaining
things.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Maybe it's worth explaining a little bit how Maxwell works. How about that?
that's fantastic. And if you need the screen or something, happy to.
No,
bring
that's
it over.
okay. I'm happy to share it. Just you know, I've done it plenty of times that I can share it like this, maybe even in 3 minutes.
Go
So yeah, so typically how it works is, you know, as you probably have read, you know, ultimately what we're doing is we are helping employers deliver balance, deliver joy, and deliver the employee value proposition that their HR teams have worked hard to build, and that results, you know, in teams that stick around. The way that it functions is we partner with employers. We understand very deeply what is it that their mission is, their values are, how do they communicate with their employee workforce. And then employers provide their team members with a monthly budget. So that's the first part of our solution. The two other parts of our solution are our app. And the third part is the Maxwell card. So employees receive a monthly budget from their employer. They access it via our application. And via our application, they get to decide how they want to spend that budget. So they can spend it in-app, in life work benefits that are going to make it easier to balance. So if they want, for example, they can get an Instacart subscription to get their groceries delivered. The second way they can use their budget is off app. That's how they use the Maxwell card. The Maxwell card is virtual, and it's actually where the money sits that they're receiving from their employer. So if they would rather instead use it, for example, to pay for gas, or to save it up and pay for a pair of comfy shoes, they can do that at point of sale using their card, you know, just tapping their phone with their Google Wallet or Apple Wallet. And then the third way that they can use their budget is actually to send it to each other. So let's say Ward, Stephen, and I work together. So I can go to that section of the app that's called Regalos. I can find Ward and I can say, Ward, thank you so much for covering my shift last night when I couldn't make it. You're a lifesaver. Please treat yourself. And I send you, you know, $20 of my budget so you can do, you know, whatever it is that's going to be key for you. If we both keep it public, Steven's going to be able to see it, and he's going to be able to comment on it and say, oh, Ward, that's not surprising. You did this for me last week. All these are the ways that employees are able to use their budget. Ultimately, that's not the only aspect that makes Maxwell unique. Once we have their attention captured, we actually are able to highlight a couple of other things that are part of the employee value proposition. So we're able to elevate the traditional benefits they already offer, whether it is, you know, healthcare, vision, anything like that. And we can highlight key announcements from the company on the homepage in an app they will use. And when I say they will use, I mean they will actually use it. We have 93% utilization on average.
On
so that
like a weekly basis, or what's the
on an ongoing
93%?
basis. Yeah, 93% if you measure across a year, and if you look at all of the members or the employees, that's the utilization. And they are able to see things like, you know, don't forget, you know, to do your 360 performance review is here. They can see things like benefit enrollment is coming, or maybe even a message to say congratulations to Ward, who is employee of the month. Again, all there on an app that they don't actually have to then go on and log in on a computer and VPN to see it, but something that they carry with them all the time.
And your average customer, I imagine they don't issue cell phones or anything like that, so it's up to the
their
employee
personal phone. Yeah,
to add it to themselves.
Yeah, that's actually a key aspect of how Maxwell is built to be mobile first. we serve across industries, but some of the industries where we see additional value is those industries that have a workforce that is not desk bound. So workforces like in healthcare or in the retail space, where they're not necessarily like you and I are right now working on a computer. And so where it makes a lot more sense to be able to connect on your personal device and in your own time. So yeah.
So is it similar to like an HSA card where, it may only work at like CVS or something for certain things, or is it pretty much they want to go, buy French fries with it, they can do that? I
love that you asked that question, because we talk about personalization at two levels. So obviously we already covered the fact that this is a way to offer really personalized solution at the employee level. We also personalize it at the employer level. Like we mentioned, we really try to understand the company, the vision, the values, and that comes along too with the type of offerings that they want to have. We curate the life work marketplace, but they're able to personalize it to their company. So if there's something there that they don't want to offer, they don't have to. And then the card can also be personalized to the employer culture. We typically off the bat block certain merchant code categories that most, employers don't want their employees to be using it on, things like political organizations or spending their money at a liquor store or gambling. There's 7 categories that we block. Beyond that, employers are able to narrow it further if they so choose. I can tell you, usually employers keep it pretty open once they realize, what is it really that I'm trying to accomplish with this budget? And if consuming French fries is for Ward, if that's what's really going to make a difference, sure, let Ward spend it on French fries. So
nice. So it's typically over and above from the typical benefits that are already covered that you mentioned they could use it as a portal to go see what benefits they have, remind them of the good stuff that their employer shares with them. But then this, I don't want to say slush fund, but that's what I'm thinking of. It's extra money that can be then used in more discretionary way or even given to peers, which I love the rewards and recognition part of it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Think about
Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, well, like first is the budget is with you, right? So you're creating these, what we call moments of joy that you tie to your employer, and it sets outside of your bank account so that you have this budget that you can actually create these, like for me, little shots of dopamine when you use it and it's in a guilt-free way. So again, it can be used in so many different ways depending on the person. So for some people, that might be actually using it for the daily essentials. And on aggregate, humans are quite predictable. So the most popular way people use their card is on food, whether that's to get the groceries that they need for their family, because that's a big stressor, or because they're at work and they want to go get lunch and treat themselves to that. Other things like gas and I already mentioned groceries. So like these essentials, especially for the lower paid, that might be how they're using it. Whereas other people, it could be the permission to use it on personal care, self-care. But the thing is, the individual gets to choose how they use it or use it on those perks that the HR team doesn't have to do the work of deciding, I'm going to give pet insurance versus I'm going to provide breast milk shipping. Instead, we already have them all there, and then the employee can opt into what they want to use it on too. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, good question came in from the chat there, and Adriana answered, is it report as income? Yes, and would show up then, I guess, on their regular W-2 or whatever.
Yeah, what I was going to say, I was about to type it, is, however, no, it's in addition to their income, and it is positioned very differently. So we leverage principles of behavioral science to make Maxwell a truly engaging experience. And one of those principles that we leverage, well, a couple of the principles that we leverage we use them on the way that the budget is positioned. So when employees receive this budget on the app, it's not presented as Word. You receive this because you did your job. That's your paycheck that you're receiving on your bank account. You are receiving this because your company cares for you, because they want you to balance, they want you to have moments of joy. So that's framing that in a completely different way than a paycheck is framed. And then that allows you, like Stephen was alluding to, in your mind now, you have put it in a different bucket. So that's the principle of mental accounting, because you received it in a different way under, a different framing. Now you also feel like you have permission to use it in a completely different way than you would use your paycheck. That's why people feel more comfortable spending it on coffee or on lunch, sometimes on things that are really for self-care, like getting a massage or getting a pedicure, because we have people in healthcare that are on their feet all the time, and that's a popular item. So it is reported as income. However, in the mind of employees, is not for their performance or for their job done. It's because their company cares for them.
That's good. So you see yourself competing with like achievers and others on the rewards and recognition side, or more of benefit providers? Yeah, where do you?
You know what? You're
Yeah.
saying this, and you know how earlier, Ward, you asked me if we got a question that was hard along the process. There was one question that we got.
Okay.
We got it at the end, and the question was, how do you classify Maxwell? Would you put it on the benefit side? Would you put it on recognition? Like, what type of solution it is? And the reason why that's challenging is because we don't consider to be ourselves a recognition tool or just perks. Katrina alluded to perks. Because what we're trying to do, yes, the vehicle is perks. There's a component of recognition with, the peer-to-peer rewards. And we have other things that I'm happy to talk about. But yes, Katrina, you're talking about engagement. That's the fact that we are trying to connect it to the other aspects of the employee value proposition. So if I had to give it a title, I would say it's around the employee experience. And how do you deliver it in a way that is impactful?
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's we use the budget because, for better or worse, money talks and people work for money. Beyond that, they want purpose and connection and value at work, but that money serves as the anchor for attention, that the employee can do this stuff like care for themselves. So there's that well-being aspect, but really it brings people there so that we can up-level all of these other pieces of the employee value proposition that Adriana talked about. So recognition, how can we empower managers to easily on the spot recognize their employees? Well, because everything is anchored on that debit card, and with the budget, we can do that on the spot so that a manager can send a message in a way that is familiar to the individual, because people are not going to intranets in their daily life. So they can receive this message that's almost like Venmo. They can use that budget on the spot. So there is that recognition aspect, but then you have the peer-to-peer recognition. So then now you have these individuals communicating with each other. As Adriana mentioned, there's almost like a lightweight employee handbook. So we're working with and up-leveling the benefit providers by being able to show them all in one place that employees are actually going, especially if they're on their feet, like nurses or CNAs. So it's a lot of it, but a lot of it is around how do we up-level the employee experience with that budget as the anchor for attention in a way that meets their expectations outside of work, how people interact with the world.
Mm-hmm.
So how do companies pay for that? I presume you're charging the companies extra fee. How do you guys make money besides winning competitions?
Oh, how do they fund it?
Well, how does Maxwell make money?
Oh, got it. Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted with the question. I'll come back to you, Katrina, because I like that comment. So the way that we make money is three ways. The first one is the typical one that we see on the perks and benefits space, which is a per employee per month fee that actually scales down as the larger the organization it is. The second way that we make money is we negotiate those life work benefits that we're bringing on the app for individuals to use. We work with those companies because ultimately we're helping them get their solution in front of an audience that they might have otherwise not been able to reach. So we revenue share with them. And then the third way that we make money is from a debit card perspective. So for those of you that are familiar with debit cards or credit cards, interchange is one of the ways that those that fall along the chain of the debit card make money. So we participate on that too. So those are the three ways that we make money.
Nice. Speaking of making money, the $50,000 that came with winning the competition. Any plans for that, or did you guys already blow it when you were in Vegas?
Yeah.
So much gambling.
We put it all on red. No, I'm kidding. No, we did not. No, yeah. So the $50,000, it's going towards two things. It's going towards product, and it's going towards getting the word out that Maxwell is here, to help create better workplaces.
So what's next for Maxwell? It sounds like you've got a lot of foundational elements. Anything new on your roadmap or customers are asking for that you're planning to provide to the market?
Yeah, Stephen, do you want to share? It sounds like this relates to some of what Katrina was asking about, and you're answering on the chat.
Yeah, so just next week, we'll be launching a new, what we call HR View, which is kind of the HR dashboard. And with that comes the ability to do admin spot bonuses. So it's kind of what we talked about. How do you reward and recognize people in a very lightweight way? So take these behaviors that companies already do, but maybe fall short, and how do we make it easier, more intuitive? So a natural step after the admin side is then providing it for managers. So managers that are using the Maxwell app for themselves in their own personal usage will also have a budget that they can then use to recognize individuals on the spot, and either choose to make it so that everyone can see it, or that it's just for the individuals. So you can imagine a feed of managers recognizing their team members, but in a way that they don't have to do outside paperwork, they don't have to find outside budget, or they don't have to go to a different software. It's the same app that they're using for their own personal use. So that will be the second stage. And the cool thing about that is just envisioning someone who does great customer care, and a manager sees it. And so on the spot, they provide them, say, $25. That individual on the way home from work can use this recognition, and their peers get to see why they're recognized. It also makes things like celebrating anniversaries or birthdays way easier, especially when you have kind of this assistant telling you, hey, it's this person's birthday on your team because we have this data. So that's, again, more of up-leveling those experiences. As far as building out the marketplace and whatnot, we're toying with different type of ways of making budgets go further, whether it's receiving cash back or also just getting better discounts, so that as a Maxwell member, you have this exclusive benefit where it's you're not just receiving budget from your employer, you're also receiving access to these different type of elements that makes it more engaging. And then a thing that the users don't experience, but it's really important for Maxwell down the road, is on the data side. And so we capture a lot of data that's privatized and anonymized, but is really interesting and compelling for HR teams and for ourselves. So things like you have lifestyle data, so how people are actually using their budget. So you can say one thing on a survey of how you might want to use your money, and that's what employers are generally, stuck with working from, is survey, which is really kind of this like artificial sterile environment where you're in this mindset where you're, okay, I'm applying to a survey. Well, we also have not only what they say potentially in the survey, but also how they're actually using their budget. We have really quick, lightweight pulse surveys where you can see people, how are you feeling today? So instead of like this long survey, you can just get time series data over time of how people's energy and productivity self-report is changing over time. We also have the demographic data beyond what employers might have from the onboarding experience, and then also how that compares to other companies on Maxwell. So a lot of where we're going in the future is, yes, creating an engaging employee experience and up-leveling these experiences that we're talking about, but then also how can we empower the HR teams with this data and create an oracle that answers their employee needs, and also able to benchmark against other companies. So that's where we start getting excited about, and where you can start throwing AI and ML and prediction side of it, but it's a buzzword right now.
Well, yeah, with big data also comes big responsibilities. We're gonna have to wrap up here so we have our next guest, but I have one last question that ties to what you just shared. Thanks for that, Stephen. A lot of the folks on the call are in the business of helping their companies form or manage their alliances and partnerships. And just curious if you have any partners today, or maybe with this data you're aggregating, there's going to be others interested in that. Maybe there's a way to collaborate with some of the big data collectors or distributors.
Yeah, so right now we have focused most of our efforts on partnership on the LifeWork marketplace, but we're always happy to have conversations around partnership, whether it is partnerships from a sales strategy. Those are typical ones that we have with brokers around. They're ones that are sought as a strategic partner for how to best serve the needs of their employees. So, but also on other sides. So if there's anyone out there that's watching this, either right now live or later and wants to chat, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put it on the chat at adriana.cisneros@maxwell.app.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the story. Please do stay on. We have another guest here, and you can hear what it takes to raise $12 million.
Awesome.
If you're looking to, are you looking to raise money in the future or?
In the future, yeah.
Okay.
But yes, thank you so much, Ward, for having us. And I'm excited to hear about Humanly.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Adriana and Stephen. Pleasure having you on, and we'll have to have you back in about a year and see how things have changed and where things have gone for you. So keep up the good work.
Soon. Thank you.